Thanks for staying with us on the conversation. Now, in a show of unanimous support and trust from his counterparts, President Bola Tinubu of Nigeria was appointed as the new chairman of the Economic Community of West African States, ECOWAS, during the 63rd ordinary session of the Authority of Heads of State and Government held in Bissau, Guinea-Bissau on Sunday. President Tinubu, who recently joined the exclusive group of West African heads of state, solemnly pledged to carry out his responsibilities as chairman and emphasized the importance of inclusivity in his administration.
However, the Nigerian leader expressed deep concern over the escalating threat to peace in the sub-region, citing terrorism and the emerging trend of military takeovers as pressing issues that require immediate and collective action. President Tinubu urged member states to come together and emphasized his commitment to harmonizing frameworks under his leadership with the aim of realizing the aspirations of ECOWAS. Now, join us for this discussion. We have Collins Nweke, Global Affairs Analyst, who joins us from Brussels in Belgium. A warm welcome to you, Collins, and thanks for joining us on the conversation.
Thank you for having me.
Collins, President Bola Tinubu emerged as chairman on his first participation at the summit. Did this come as a surprise to you? And what is the process involved in selecting the chairman of the regional bloc?
Whether it comes as a surprise, well, I'm not too sure it came as a total surprise, but that is with a caveat. Now, let me talk about the surprise element. Now, it was only about a week ago that the president of Guinea-Bissau actually paid a courtesy visit to President Bola Tinubu of Nigeria. And when he did so, Mr. Mblalo was actually seen to, be showing solidarity with the new president of Nigeria and reaffirming his country's preparedness to work with Nigeria. Of course, expectedly considering Nigeria's status as the dominant economy in the ECOWAS sub-region. Now, when a week or two later, the president of Nigeria succeeds him as the chairman of ECOWAS, one would say, okay, well, that was partly what it was all about. Now, the other surprise or the other aspect of the surprise element is the fact that President Bola Tinubu has only just emerged the president of Nigeria. He's attending his first ECOWAS meeting, which is the 63rd session. And immediately he was, appointed or, well, let's say elected chairman unanimously. Now, that leaves some people with, some mixed feeling in the sense that the election that brought him into power as president of Nigeria was anything but, non-controversial. As a matter of fact, it is still being contested. Now, the question has been asked as to whether this couldn't have waited until Tinubu is confirmed, the legitimate president of Nigeria after the tribunal has, rendered his verdict. Why wouldn't someone else, another president, is there a scarcity of, competent presidents or heads of states of African countries to hold briefs? So these are the sort of questions that, are actually, arising as a consequence of his emergence as chairman of ECOWAS.
Definitely lots of things to discuss about. But before we go deeper into all of this and the commitments that is supposed to come with President Bola Tinubu, and if the tribunal goes against him, what the consequences will be for the chairmanship of ECOWAS, let's look at the assessment of the outgone president. You mentioned him, that is Guinea-Bissau's president. And we're looking at a regional organization and the commitment to develop the region, West Africa, ECOWAS as a whole. What has been your assessment so far towards the commitment to develop the region under Guinea-Bissau's president, Umaro Sissoco Embalo?
I will score the ECOWAS very low in carrying out its mandates for regional development, economic integration. In the sense that in more ways than one, they have been seen to be toothless bulldog. I will single out just one issue and leave it at that, because that is, the most pressing issue as far as West Africa is concerned, and that is the the menace of military coup. Since 2020, let me not take it even further. There have been 6 military attempts. One actually in the same country that Mbalo, the outgoing, the immediate past chairman of ECOWAS, presides over. Now, what we have seen is a situation where ECOWAS has become a club of tired old men who are simply in there to protect the interests of their friends and comrades. And so, when bad, obnoxious things are seen to be happening in ECOWAS, they look the other way. There is absolutely nothing to show that they work in a preemptive manner by churning out and actually following up policies that will bring about political stability in the region. Rather, they go into reactive mood when these coups occur, and when they see their friends and allies behaving badly, they simply look away, rather than calling them out and telling them, up to this point, not any further. So I'm sorry, but there is nothing to rate ECOWAS so very high. Well, okay, the regional economic integration in the broader, African Union is one that can be commended, but that is not down to ECOWAS, as a single bloc.
Thank you very much for your submission, Collins. Quite a damning assessment of ECOWAS has been reactive to the political situation, and then when coups happen, they're always the first to issue a statement or suspend the member state. Now, 2 questions here, Collins. One of the major challenges faced by ECOWAS is the persistent threat of terrorism. There's a saying that if one's house is on fire, you can't look the other way. You look at a country like Burkina Faso that has been spared the most of the insurgency in the 2000s, is now the HQ or hotbed for terrorism, and they seem to be going at it alone. There's little or no support from ECOWAS. What can be done? Do they even have the finances? You use the word toothless bulldog, because all they do is just talk, and they hardly back up their actions. And then number 2, looking at a country like Nigeria with its myriad of challenges and with lots of expectations from Nigeria's president domestically, will he be able to balance being ECOWAS chairman and also fulfilling his responsibilities and obligations to the people of Nigeria? Because they're both very serious positions to hold.
I will start with the number 2 questions, and that is the capacity or the ability of Nigeria, considering its own domestic challenges, to be able to, satisfactorily carry out its, mandate within the ECOWAS, sub-region. Well, I would say that Nigeria has always been a regional power. As a matter of fact, that is the core concentration of its foreign policy, being a regional power, supporting the democratization, and then economic integration and all of that, even peace and security. We have seen Nigeria actually play that leadership role, either within the ECOWAS sub-region and other initiatives, and they continue to spend on these neighboring West African countries, playing the big brother role. They have also admiringly, as a country, actually ceded power to some ECOWAS countries. Take, for instance, Ghana, inciting the headquarters of very, very important institutions there, whereas Nigeria has the the power, the capacity to actually bring it home to Nigeria. take the issue of, the Cameroons, for instance, when the Bakassi ruling came out, Nigeria as a ruling, a superpower in the West African sub-region could have said, no, we are not having this. They would have contested it, and if it meant going to war to retain Bakassi, they would have done so. But Nigeria said, no, you know what, we're going to lead by example. So, as far as that is concerned, Nigeria remains the regional power, and I see them continuing to do so even under Tinubu. Now, coming to the issue in Burkina Faso, well, I can link that also to Nigeria's position in that regard. It could have been otherwise, but it is what it is. And I would say that the most important thing here is to accept the reality as it is and support Burkina Faso in carrying out the mandate successfully.
Now, still talking about the issue of terrorism, I mean, we're seeing different groups. You say Boko Haram, we have the Islamic State, we have Al-Qaeda, all these things that is really bedeviling the West African region. Now, President Tinubu highlighted the regional plan of action on fight against terrorism, that's 2020 to 2024, as well as the operationalization of the ECOWAS standby force on fight against terrorism. With all the actions that ECOWAS has made against terrorism, do you think that this will be really effective? And what measures do you think the West African region, ECOWAS, can deal with these insurgencies that have been witnessed so far?
Tinubu has shown capacity to be a very good organizer, very good mobilizer of human capital, human resources to get things done. There is absolutely no doubt about that. Now, I do have reasons to believe that given the opportunity as he now has, he will be able to actually do a two-pronged approach. One is bilateral approach where he gets countries within the ECOWAS sub-region to collaborate, with each other in tackling the issue of peace and security. But broader than that, I also see Tinubu as an internationalist of note, actually encouraging them as well to do some sort of, cluster multilateralism in terms of getting their international partners to support them in securing peace and security in the ECOWAS sub-region. One can only hope and anticipate that, that will be part of the approach that he will take. And I believe that that being the case, there is a ray of hope.
Well, I wonder, what certain challenges do you think that they have encountered in bringing peace to the region?
Well, the most telling negative side of the challenge they have faced is actually the fact that the terrorists themselves have continued to be one step ahead of ECOWAS, but also the member states where they are actually present. Take the ISIS, for instance, and the rest of the terrorist groups. Now, it is also on record that they have not managed to actually provide enough social amenities. I mean, as minute as this may be, it is important because the terrorist organizations continue to be able to convince, the ordinary man on the street to, show solidarity and support for them and continue to recruit them en masse. And they also rely on them to supply them the intelligence information that they use in actually carrying out their menace. Now, all of this happened because of the fragility of the social system in Africa, where poverty is endemic, and for that reason, these people are so vulnerable to the terrorists who use them to commit their atrocities.
Okay.
So
now, finally, Collins, before I just want to put in this question before we wrap up. Democracy and good governance have been highlighted as cornerstones of peace and sustainable development. In your opening submission, you did talk about ECOWAS being reactive and, a club of tired old men looking after their own interests. So the ECOWAS region has been called the coup belt in the past, but there's always a backstory to that, the issue of third-termism. We've seen Blaise Compaoré in Burkina Faso. We've seen Alassane Ouattara in Ivory Coast. We've also seen the coup that ousted Alpha Conde in Guinea. And most recently, the Senegalese president, Macky Sall, did come out to say, look, he's not going for a third term, not because the constitution says he can, but because he feels he doesn't want to. But we do know he might just be playing games with that. So how can ECOWAS be more proactive and, say the way you're governing your country, tell their brother countries that you're not deepening the spirit of democracy and development, that if you continue this way, it might lead to a coup? Or can they not, or diplomatically, would it be interfering in the domestic affairs of another nation?
I do believe that ECOWAS could do much more than they have done so far in preemptively, preventing, the barrage of coups from taking place in Africa. Now, every sovereign nation of the world has the right to adapt its constitution, including tenure elongation. But for Christ's sake, if you are the president of the country that masterminded tenure elongation, you cannot be a beneficiary of that tenure elongation, because what it implicitly means is that you have done the tenure elongation for yourself. ECOWAS needs to start from there by saying, go ahead, do your tenure elongation, but you, as the president that presided over that process, cannot be a beneficiary. That's number one. Number two, ECOWAS has got to develop ways and means of calling out those behaving badly, because the signs are always there, Wenga. They see those coups coming, they do nothing to prevent them, and once the coup has happened, they begin to say all sorts of things by pretending to be actually condemning those. They could do better. And then thirdly, and perhaps lastly, for want of time, I would say that isolationism works and works very well. ECOWAS has got to actually institute a situation where commit any coup and you are out of the system, you are completely excluded, no business done with you. There is this issue of interregnum where you have, an arrangement where the coup plotters are in power with, power sharing arrangement. All those are complete nonsense. Exclude them, get them out, and then that will send a strong message that you cannot be, welcome into the club.
I must say a lot of checks and balances is needed. And talking about short term, Gabon's President Ali Bongo has also said he will be going for a third term in presidency. But it's been a wonderful conversation with you, Collins Nweke. Thank you so much for joining us on the conversation. Thank you.
Always a pleasure, Rita. Thank you for having me.
Wonderful. And this is where we'll call it a wrap on today's edition of The Conversation. The first half, we dealt with situations in South Africa and the BRICS summit, where the president has said that the summit will be physical. And that poses a question on if Russian President Vladimir Putin will be attending the summit. We just finished conversations where Nigeria's President Bola Tinubu has been declared the chairman of the ECOWAS organization, that is the Economic Community of West African States. The challenges, the task ahead, political stability and terrorism. It's been a wonderful discussion so far. Thank you so much for joining us. I am Rita Omodia.
Thank you for being a part of the program, and Big Abora. See you next time. Bye-bye.